Welcome back to Alter Eagle. I'm your host, Laura Crago. Today we're taking you behind the curtain of one of Butler's most beloved institutions, the Butler Little Theatre. Now in its 84th season, this community theater has been a creative home to countless performers, directors, and audiences alike. It's a space where stories come to life, friendships are forged, and the magic of live theater thrives. Joining me today are three people who know the heart and soul of BLT inside and out, all of whom I've had the pleasure of knowing since I was a little girl. Sue Collar, a dedicated force behind the scenes and on stage. Dennis Casey refers to Sue as the single most important person in the history of BLT. Sue has dedicated herself to the success of BLT since 1963, a remarkable 62 continuous years and counting. Acting, directing, producing, properties management, costumes, history maintenance, set decoration, painting, all this and more. However, her most important contributions have come as a member of BLT's board of directors, most notably as chairman for countless years. Dennis Casey, longtime performer and director, started his journey with the BLT in 1966 at the age of 15. He first directed You Can't Take It With You in 1975 and has directed 13 plays to date at BLT, a number he does not plan to finish on. Dennis was a member of the BLT board for more than 25 years, serving as chairman for 3 of those years. Nedra Casey, whose history with the theater runs deep and whose passion for the arts is infectious. Nedra began at BLT in 1963, attending the children's workshop. She made it to the stage in a seasoned show. The year was 1965. She was 15 years old, playing a 12-year-old girl in The Happy Time. A longtime board member, 12 years to be exact, Nedra has been a consistent force in the BLT community. Whether you've been in the audience, on the stage, or are just discovering the Butler Little Theatre for the first time, this conversation is a celebration of the people, the passion, and the performances that make it so special. Thank you so much for taking time to sit down and talk with me. I am sitting with 3 individuals who have impacted my life, and I know have impacted this community greatly. We are sitting on the stage of the Butler Little Theatre. And if you're not familiar with the Butler Little Theatre, what's the matter with you? What are you doing with your time? The Butler Little Theatre is launching their 84th season in September with 5 productions. There will be 5 productions next year. They managed to stay afoot during COVID. Sitting here with me, I have Sue Collar to my right. If you're watching the video, to my left, I have Nedra Casey and Dennis Casey. And you all have been involved in this theater for, over 60 years?
Yes.
We're that old.
And the Butler audience is saying, why?
Well, you've all been involved in every aspect. You've directed, you've acted, you've worked on props and costumes and design and
Scrub floors.
You've been on the board. You've made really tough decisions. You've probably made decisions that warmed your heart. And so just starting off, and anyone can start here, when was the first time you stepped foot into this building?
Well, Sue was...
Excuse me. I think Nedra actually was here in the children's workshop.
Oh. Well, yes, I started in 1963. Again, I am that old. And I started with a little theater children's workshop. And I came here because my mother was sick of me using all kinds of different voices and accents and characters around the house. And
I love
said, let's get her a path forward that's not the insane asylum. So I came down here, and my first time out, I got my first leading role as Prospero in Shakespeare's The Tempest.
Ooh.
It might have been my acting skills. It might have been the fact that my voice was lower than the rest of the guys. But,
I'm right there with you, Nedra.
But that was my first foray at the theater, 1963.
1963.
Yeah.
And Dennis, we were just talking briefly about the first moment you walked in here.
Yes. Well, the first time I walked in here, they immediately told me to leave. But
That's not true.
He's going to make jokes this entire time,
Yes.
the
so
only
it's
reason
going to be
I'm
great.
here. The only
It's
reason
going to
I'm
be
here.
great.
So, 1966, I was 15 years old. Did backstage work on a play, Tea House of the August Moon. And then immediately after that, there was a play that they needed a short, goofy-looking boy for, so they picked me. I was both short and goofy-looking, so I had all the qualities that Joel Rosenblum was looking for.
Perfect. Now, Miss Sue.
I started here in 1964, right out of high school. I never did anything in high school. I didn't know anybody in theater. And for a year, I went to a business school that was in Butler way back then, and I met a man named Rich Liggis. And he was involved with Musical Theater Guild, and he told me I should audition and for Music Man, which I did, and I wasn't cast, but I learned to work backstage on that show, and then I came to BLT, and I've been here ever since.
Been here ever since. Did you meet Gary here?
No, I met him in a Musical Theater
You met
Guild.
him at Musical Theater
Yes.
Guild. So Gary Collar, Sue's late husband, a wonderful man. There's actually a prop piece that we used in Star Spangled Girl. We used Gary's pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And Alec, who was a new actor who came in to the Butler Little Theater for our show, at one point he dropped it and I looked at him very sternly, and I paused for a moment. I thought, just remember, he doesn't know. And I said, Alec, I need you to be as careful as possible as you can with that. That belonged to a very special person who was a huge part of this theater. So don't break that pipe. And he's like, got it. But I did have to mention Gary because, yeah, he, I grew up with all of you, and he was a wonderful person. And you're also wonderful. And you all just stepped down from the board. So
It was a unanimous decision
yeah,
by the board.
by the board, they were like, you got to go. Time to go.
Yeah.
But, when we had the annual, every year you have an annual, which is, we always say it's a party, right? But it is a business meeting. It's sort of a wrap up of the year, discussing the shows and all of the wonderful things and new people that came in, and yes, maybe changes into the board. And you both came up to speak. And I know that Dennis came up and kind of spoke for him and Nedra, but there was a whole program, which I'm going to take a pause here for a second. I am going to go grab it. Nedra brought that for me today. But what, leading up to that, what was kind of going through your mind? Anyone that wants to share?
Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It can be scary, right? To step down from something that you take so much pride in and you've dedicated so much heart and time into, but to be able to just sort of pass this torch.
I think it was just time. In my, I had decided a year ago that I was not going to run again. And so I kind of took this past year to maybe try and maybe not accomplish anything, but give ideas to what I think maybe should be changed or re-looked at, to maybe do in a different way. But I was very satisfied with my choice, with my decision, and I made it totally on my own. And like I said, a year ago. So I was sad to not be on it anymore, but that's okay. It's time for the new people to take over, as I did as a kid right out of high school. I got involved, and there were people there that were now the age that I am now. And so time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's where I was kind of going with it, is looking back on, did it feel like yesterday that you stepped into this building and joined the board?
Yes.
It does feel like that sometimes
Yes.
when, time flies when you're having fun.
Yep.
So, and when you were thinking about what you wanted to say, Dennis, it was really a beautiful speech. Obviously, I was crying. And the only reason I came,
So was I.
because I knew all of you were.
Me too.
Yeah, because I knew all of you were stepping down, and I just thought these are big shoes to fill. And we need to continue to say your name in this building. Your names need to continue to be said in this building, because it's important to know the pride that you took into it and to continue that legacy. So sorry, Dennis, I feel like I'm making him emotional right now.
I am. It's
Yeah.
I'm not emotional about myself or frankly Nedra, but we're sitting here with Sue Collar, who I have described as the single most important person in the history of the Butler Little Theatre. And Sue's over there shaking her head. But
Where are the
making us all cry.
I'm going to start crying
Where
now.
are the Kleenex that fly in from the?
so anyway,
We need a props person. There's no one else here.
the premise behind that is pretty simple. The Little Theater was founded in 1941, and I was privileged to have met some of the founders when I started here as a teenager. And Laura Bell Harrington and Peg and Ed Howard come to mind. They're wonderful people, but by the mid-'60s, they were pretty much done. You know, by 62 or 63, right around the time that Sue was getting involved, they were moving on, which was fine, appropriate. So in that context, they founded the theater, which of course, there wouldn't be a theater without that founding activity, and totally involved for, in this example, 21, 23 years, something like that. Well, Sue Collar has been involved in this theater for 63 years. And when I say involved, I mean, there literally probably hasn't been more than 40 or 50 days in that 63 years where she wasn't actively, she'd be on vacation, she'd be out of town, she'd be doing something personal, which we don't want to get into her personal life because that's that's an ugly story. But what she's done for the Little Theater is priceless, irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact number. I doubt if Sue knows the exact number, but I would guess that she's been on the board of directors for 50 plus years. During that 50 years, she was probably chairman of the Little Theater for 20 or more years. I myself have served on the Little Theater board for about 25 years is my best guess. And Nedra was on that board for 11 or 12 years. And we've all served at different times as officers. But, when you're chairman of the board, you become the face of the Butler Little Theater in the community. And that's Sue. I got a phone call last year when I was chairman, and it was from our insurance agent. And he calls me up. I'm the chairman of the Butler Little Theater, and he says, "Hey, do you have Sue Collar's number?" Well, yeah, I do.
You're like, I do, but you want to talk to me?
That's my point. And whether it's the Butler Eagle or something as important as our insurance agent, that kind of thing, Sue has become the embodiment of the Little Theater, and therefore the single most important person in the history of the Little Theater.
Thank you, Dennis.
Aw, that's so sweet. I mean, I think that this is something that...
What did you say?
I did say that was sweet, Dennis.
We're going to have to get off this podcast.
Too bad you're going to have to take it.
You just lost all credibility.
I think
worth it.
I think in all those years, to be perfectly honest, I think I only ever missed one show, seeing it or being involved in it in some way. And that was when, and I am going to cry, when my father-in-law died. And it was a show that Dennis was in. I don't remember the name of it, but you were
Neither
in bed.
do I.
You were in bed. You were in bed and dying.
Bedroom farce.
You were dying.
Well, I've done that on stage many times.
Yes, you have. And and my father-in-law had died, and I just couldn't come see it.
Yeah.
And even when Gary had his stroke, I made it to every show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's just my heart.
Well, yeah, it's a special place to me, and I lived away from Butler for how many decades, and it was the first place I thought of when I knew I was moving back. I was like, I have to get back there. I have to get into that building, just walk into the building. I mean, I have aspirations to be I want to be on the board someday. I want to be filling shoes, that I think are really hard to fill. I want to continue to make this a special place for people to come, whether it's being on stage or in the audience. And even just like sitting here now looking out at the seats, it's whenever you're here, there's just something about it, and it's very much a family.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of going into, what does that mean to each of you? What does like BLT family mean to each of you? Like if you could think of a show or maybe one of the first shows where you really had that feeling where you're like, oh, this is a family. And I know that might be a tough question. You can pause. I can edit pauses and whatever.
Well, we did a show years ago called Murder at the Howard Johnsons. Now, it's a goofy, funny, very, very funny.
You did a goofy, funny show?
I know,
Dennis.
you're stunned.
Stunned.
Out of his box.
And Nedra and I were in it with Dave Malarkey.
Oh.
And it was pretty funny. And but I bring it up because Nedra and I had done some things together in college. We went to Teal College, main campus, and that should get the biggest laugh of the day right there.
I like how you said main campus.
Yeah, there's no other campus.
So
this is a theater group of people, so it's going to be like this the whole time.
So anyway, and that was the first show we had done together since college. And despite what people might think, especially for the first, 20 years or so that we were here after college, we did very few plays together because if you think about it, it's a big commitment in time when you're working on a show. And we had careers and we had children. And so to do a show together was virtually impossible because one of us had to be watching the kids and one of us had to be paying attention to whatever it was we're doing for our lives. So it's only really been since we were in North Carolina for about 7 years because of my career. And when we came back, we've actually done a fair number of shows together as either actors or me directing Nedra or whatever. And that's been pretty unique for us because over the bulk of our time here, we really did very few shows together. So Murder at the Howard Johnsons being the exception, and it was kind of cool.
And you Gary Collar directed The 7-Year Itch when you played my mother.
Yes.
Were you in that show also?
No, he was not.
That's a good example of another show that I
example,
couldn't be in because Nedra was in it.
Yes. Oh. Oh my goodness.
Not
He
that I'm
blames
bitter.
me for everything.
Well, I mean, that's par for the course in marriage, right? Sometimes you gotta
You got to do what you got to
jab
do.
at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I also have to say, even though my mother isn't here, but I'm sure she's watching me, that without my mother, neither one of us could have done it because she did take care of the girls during the weekends and so on, and when we were in shows, and so she was a big supporter too.
It's a huge commitment. I don't think what people always ask, and I'm sure you've all had this question asked to you when you're in a show, how do you learn all those lines? And it's like you do because it's why you're here. I mean, you don't come into this building and audition for a show thinking, how am I going to memorize all these lines? You're embodying a character, a persona at times.
It's funny. I could learn those lines a lot easier when I was younger.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and I still sometimes I'm like, why can't I remember that?
Yeah.
There was one word in Other Desert Cities, ephemera, but it's spelled similar to euphoria. So it's like ephemera. And it took me a while to just it was that one word. I was like, this word is going to be the bane of my existence in this character, but I'm going to get it. Katie's like, well, if you want, I was like, nope, I'm not skipping it. I have to get it. And I think also what's curious is how many times you have directed. I know, would you say Dennis is probably the one that's directed the most here?
Well, the most
in this
is a
building?
guy by the name of Milton Carlos. He was a professor at Slippery Rock,
Okay.
and in the 50s up to the mid-60s, he directed 23, 25 shows. I mean, it was a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I have probably directed the second most number of shows. I've directed 13 shows. I hope I can direct one more for the obvious reason that I don't want to end on 13.
Yeah, I did hear about that. You don't want to end on 13. Okay.
I don't know how many Gary directed. He directed quite a few.
Yeah.
And I'd have to look that up, but offhand, I really don't know. But I would think it would be pretty close.
Yeah.
You know, that you and he.
Nedra, have you directed
Yes,
here?
I have. I knew you were
Yes.
going to ask me that question.
Well, yes. What was your favorite show to direct?
Well, I only directed one, so that
Well,
would be
there
my
you go.
Me too. I only
that would
directed
Okay.
that would
I was-
be that would be my favorite.
And what show was that?
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun show.
So
Right?
It's not the movie.
Okay, hold on. I'm thinking. Yeah,
You're thinking of the
I'm thinking
movie.
something different. Yes.
It's a murder mystery with a
But I love murder mysteries.
yeah with a young writer and an older writer, and someone gets garroted. That was great. Which Dennis did the special effects for that, and it was quite amazing.
Very
So,
cool. Okay.
Judd Stewart and Jerry Johnson were the two leads in that. So yeah,
Yes, we know them.
yeah,
What's-
yeah.
What show? What show?
I direct. Excuse me. I directed Avante, in maybe in the late
Oh, yeah.
70s, early 80s.
Yeah, late 70s.
Is that what it was? And I would like to direct, but I don't like to cast. The blocking, the stage, all of that part of it, I think I have an eye for, but I don't like to turn down my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So
That can be hard. Yes.
I've only done it once.
That probably is the hardest thing, becoming a family and becoming really close, and then having to direct and turn people down. Dennis, if you were to pick one of those shows that you would direct in a heartbeat again.
Again? Well, I will say this. It's hard to recapture magic. Okay?
Yes.
So I've been very fortunate. Casting a show is probably the most important component of directing a show.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been very, very fortunate to have had great casts in the shows that I've directed. So to redo one of those shows, it's difficult to say because if you don't get the right people for the cast, then you're not going to recapture the magic of whatever happened the first time around. So it's hard to say. We did an A.R. Gurney play called The Dining Room, and as the name implies, all the action takes place in a dining room.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a pretty confined set like that, pretty restrictive type of environment for the play, that makes it a challenge for a director and for the actors. And that was a very good production. That's one that I'm proud of.
I think about this often, but I hope that whatever show you direct next, maybe there's a role for me in it. I would be really honored to be directed by you.
Well, that's only because you've never been directed by me.
Exactly.
No, he's a very good director.
No, it's something that, and the only reason I didn't audition for the shows you did last season was I was still kind of in a place where I was taking care of myself. And I don't know if I felt like a pull to that show in particular. And for me, it's important to really feel like, oh, this is something I can fully commit to, my time. I'm going to be able to take time to really develop this character. Because one of the things I love the most about theater is coming in and maybe I have an idea of who this character is and I get the part, but then the director challenges me. I think that's the most important thing for anyone. When you come in here, you might have an idea of who this character is, but when a director has a vision, you have to fully trust them. And it also, when it gets you out of your comfort zone, it does something for you. in developing something that maybe you never would have had the opportunity to do? If you're going to continue to do characters the same, then
why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? What's the fun in that? And I really feel like you could challenge me. So no pressure, Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, we'll also see what ends up happening there. I did want to ask
And
about...
excuse me, I just want to say real quickly.
Yeah.
So mostly I trust Dennis, but we were doing Inspector Calls, which was a fantastic show that COVID shut down, so many people didn't get to see it. Again, he's directing me, and we're at Rachel's Roadhouse, and after rehearsal, and we're talking, and he said, "You are a psychopath." And I said, "No, I'm not a psychopath. I'm a sociopath. I'm a sociopath." At that moment, the waiter comes by and he's like, I'll just come back. I'll come back. So he stepped away. He didn't, well, we had to explain later what we were arguing about the theater, not he wasn't.
Yes.
Not real life.
You're
Not
like,
real
it's
life.
okay.
It's okay.
Yes, we're theater people.
Yeah.
We're weird.
We're weird and dramatic. And
But
animated.
I'm screaming, I'm a sociopath.
I'm not a psychopath.
sociopath.
I'm a sociopath. That's amazing. That would be something that would happen to me as a server. I'd start walking towards the table, and then I wouldn't even say anything to them. I'd just about face and be like, I'm going to give them some space. I'm not sure what that's about.
Would you like some additional bread?
Yeah. Maybe some bread would help.
Yes. Your food is coming shortly. I'll bring you more bread. Yeah. Just offer it. So multi-generational ties. We talked a little bit about your girls. They did do a kids workshop with you, Nedra.
They taught children's workshop with me for 2 years.
For
so
2
that was
years. And Dennis, do you have some multi-generational ties here?
Well, I do. My father and mother were both very active in the Little Theater. They were kind of like a comet because they were very active in the history of the Little Theater, like sort of thing, only about 10 years. Then my father took a job out in St. Louis, and that was 1974. And so from about 1965 to 74, my dad served on the board of directors for many years. He was chairman of the board of directors for a couple of years. My mother acted in many plays. She was
an amazing
she was
actress.
quite good.
She was wonderful.
And then they had to leave. So it was fun. I mean, I got involved. The first show I got involved in, I got involved backstage. My mother was in a kind of a cool play, Tea House of the August Moon. Gary Collar had principal part. Gary was playing a Japanese interpreter. This is a show that you can't do with all white people in 2025. Age, yeah. But in 1966, the fact that there were absolutely zero Japanese people in the play didn't really hurt the audience. So Gary was terrific. Ray Lantz, who loved the guy, he was super important character in the Little Theater for 20-some years. But my favorite part of that play was my mother played this older Japanese woman. Didn't have very many lines because she couldn't speak Japanese. I know you're stunned to hear that. But we had a Jeep that was actually in the pit of the house because all these villagers are being forced to leave their village. And so my mother and a couple of other people, my mother's riding on the hood of the Jeep. Other Japanese islanders, it's on Okinawa, are riding on it, had baggage on it. This Jeep was overloaded with stuff. And then trailing behind the Jeep was a live goat. We had a live goat.
That was the original goat.
And so,
okay, there was a real goat in here. Okay, got it.
It was a cameo because he had one entrance and one exit.
Right.
So, he was.
How did the audience? I have to just. How did they react to it being a real?
Oh, they
goat?
loved it.
Hilarious.
They loved it.
They were probably dying. They're like, It's funny when you see something that you can
don't
see,
expect.
but when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
No, that's
That's kinda it,
That's
yeah.
kind of it. That was
There's a real live goat.
So my mother and two of my brothers were Japanese villagers with awkward makeup on. And,
Yes.
Which I did not do.
Yeah.
and I helped with the set. So that was the first show that we were involved.
And as I recall, let me interject here. As I recall, Bob Natilli was in that show, and as like an officer, and the goat drank out of his helmet. Am I remembering that correctly?
That's right. Yes.
And it wouldn't drink water, but as I remember, it drank Pepsi or Coke or
Yes.
something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What? Like the
Yeah.
actual goat would not drink water.
Yeah.
Oh,
He said no.
it was funny.
He's like, excuse me.
He
No.
said no.
I want something better than that.
So yeah, we've had some excitement here.
And Gary had a gash. There was a platform, and
I forgot about that.
And he ripped his knee open in a blackout, getting to where he needed to be. And he, for the rest of his life, had this big scar and divot in his knee from
Wow.
the corner of the platform.
Yeah.
which
And there was
reminds
blood running down his leg for the rest of the show.
Which reminds me of the other Japanese play we did here, Rashomon, which is it's a very cool play. It's one scene, but it repeats like 3 different times from different people's perspective.
Ooh.
But at one point in the play, there's a sword fight between these Japanese samurai. And we had a gentleman come in, I believe he came in from Slippery Rock, but we had a fight coordinator come in from Slippery Rock, and you teach it like choreography, like dance, okay? So it looks good. Well, and I don't remember even which actor it was, but somebody made a mistake, and one of the actors was cut like pretty severely with a sword. So play had to stop. He had to go to the emergency room.
Oh, wow.
They say, the play must go on. Well, except when one of your principal players is bleeding profusely on
All
the
over the stage.
Yeah.
So, but he came back for the next night.
I was trying to remember what his name, and I can't.
I can't remember.
I can't
his
pull
name.
it.
I'm
I can't
old.
pull it.
I'm too old. I don't remember.
I mean, so you guys were using real swords.
Oh yeah. Well, you see our stage and our audience. You can't use like
It's hard to
plastic
fake
swords
things.
when the audience is 20 feet away.
Yeah.
True. I like that, the commitment to
Yeah.
it.
So my other, again, we're talking about people being brutalized. So let's talk about another one. There was a gentleman.
Just
there was
stay on track, yeah.
First time we did Barefoot in the Park, my mother was in that show. It was being directed by Ray Lance. And there was a gentleman who played the upstairs kooky neighbor. And I believe it was opening night, but it might have been Thursday, but it doesn't matter. My dad was producing the play, and my dad gets a phone call, and what's going on? Well, person X, I'm not going to say his name, he's not going to be able to do the show. This is like opening night. What do you mean he's not going to be able to do the show? Well, he's in the hospital.
Oh, no.
Well, what happened? Oh, my God, did he have like a serious, like, was he in an automobile accident? No, he'll be okay. His wife just beat him up.
Oh, my gosh.
God's
Someone
truth.
got beat up
God's
and couldn't
truth.
do their show.
And
By his
so
wife.
Ray Lance had to do the part, and Ray was way funnier than that guy would have been anyway.
Oh, my gosh. I think that's one of the biggest fears, right? When you're directing a show, you're like, what if something like that happens? And I've been fortunate enough that hasn't happened.
We've never had understudies here. We have had a couple of shows where we've double cast it, and so that this cast is doing, I'm making this part up, Friday, Sunday, Wednesday,
Yeah,
and this
certain
other cast
performances.
is doing Saturday, Tuesday, the next Friday, whatever. So we've had some shows like that, but typically there's no such thing as an understudy here. It's hard enough to get good actors on stage for.
It's hard. Yeah, it is hard to get people to come in and audition. And I can't tell you how many times people say, well, are you getting paid for it? I'm like, no. and I guess maybe it's just the way our brains are wired that I'm like, that doesn't matter. Like, that's not why I'm doing it.
Well, I will say this.
Like, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I think
If I could just do this and get paid, for sure.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one sitting here today who actually got paid.
Get out.
When we
Just
did
kidding.
1,000 Clowns, I was 15 years old, and some outfit up in Brookville paid to have us bring the show up to Brookville, and they paid the Little Theater $1,000. And the reason I remember it so well, it was in the middle of the summer, and my parents weren't sure. Brookville isn't like across the street. It's almost 2 hours away, and so Joel Rosenblum, who was the director, he was also the star of the show. He paid everybody $100, which at that time, we're talking 1966, $100.
That's a lot of money
for a 15-year-old kid to get $100.
Yeah, what was gas then?
It wasn't gas because I wasn't driving. I wasn't old
was
enough
15,
to drive, but I'm hooking a ride with somebody to get
Yeah.
up there and everything. And I got paid $100, and I'm thinking, this is the first show I ever did, first show on stage I ever did. And I'm thinking, this is going to be great. I'm going to make millions.
Oh, that's funny. But that's cool. That's a really cool experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does kind of feel good whenever you get paid for something.
And BLT did do other things than here. I mean, for 10 years, we had a barn out by Moraine that we would do our shows, and we would bring shows in from other areas. One theater I remember that used to come every summer was from Medina, Ohio. I don't remember the other ones offhand, but that one sticks in my head. And we used to do shows, take our shows up to Foxburg in the summer at the theater up there.
We
And
did a
New
lot of shows
Bethlehem.
at
And we took shows to New Bethlehem, sets and everything to New Bethlehem. We'd load up a truck and drive it up and do a show and stay overnight and come back the next day.
Yeah. We did. I was in Butterflies Are Free and we took that up to New Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was fun because the
Yeah.
thing about New Bethlehem was the stage was so much higher.
It was an old movie
It was an old
theater.
movie theater. So like the first time I saw the elevated stage, I'm like, whoa, this is like a real stage.
This
It's
is
elevated
yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
above. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did that change? Like, what was that like a financial thing or
What happened to the?
Well, I think, as I recall, the guy's name was Mr. Andrews that was in charge, and I don't know if something happened to him or he lost it, because we did it for several years, like maybe I want to say 5 years. And then we just didn't hear from him again. So I don't know if it was, something with him or his board or, whatever.
Yeah.
But what happened to the theater out at Moraine?
It's
Reminds me.
my recollection is that Dr. Eisler owned that property, and when Moraine Lake was being developed, he thought that he was going to get some financial gain from that area.
Oh.
And so our lease was up. We had a lease, as I recall, for like $1 a year or something like that. And he wouldn't renew the lease. So we had to give it up.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a story about that barn. It's my favorite story. That barn had, like most barns, had an earthen ramp that went up to the big barn doors.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had always wanted a St. Bernard. And my mother secretly arranged to purchase this St. Bernard from some family somewhere. And it wasn't even a full-grown St. Bernard. It was like 9 or 10 months old. And that St. Bernard's name was Molly, obviously a female. My brother Mike had a Volkswagen Squareback sedan, which my mother and I had ridden out to the barn that day to rehearse whatever show it was we're doing. And so when this family came to deliver the St. Bernard, they had like a collar and a chain, and we attached it to the bumper of the Volkswagen Squareback.
Oh.
And then we went in to rehearse, and we had left water for the dog. The dog was quite comfortable. But apparently whatever we were doing was tremendously interesting to a St. Bernard. And she dragged that Volkswagen up that ramp.
Wait,
up to- now,
what?
took
The
her-
whole car?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say she ripped the bumper off.
No, she dragged. And again, the car wasn't in neutral. I mean,
And she was a pup.
she wasn't even full grown. And she drags it up to the door of the barn. Now you can imagine her tongue's hanging out. She's
Well, yeah, she's
my mother
exhausted.
My mother thinks this dog's gonna die. My father's never gonna see it. But yeah.
Oh,
it was
no.
out at that barn.
That's wild.
Well, another barn story is, and I don't remember the show, but we watched, thanks to Ray Lawrence, the moon landing.
Yes, we did.
In a dressing room. He had brought a
That's
little
cool.
TV and some antlers, or that
Little
used to
antennas, yep,
antennas that used to put on the TV, and it was pretty,
Grainy.
it was grainy. Yeah.
Listen, you don't know. Yeah, kids these days don't know nothing about
right.
losing Wi-Fi signal, and you're like,
Yeah.
That same night, my mother and I were in that show, same show.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And my mother, she was a good driver, but she was quite cautious. And she said, "Can you get us home to see the moon landing in time? Because the rehearsal was late enough." And I said, "Yeah, I'll have to drive like faster than you would drive, but yeah, I can do that." She said, "Well, take us to Dr. Weimer's house." My mother was head nurse of
Labor
and delivery up at Butler Hospital. Take us to Dr. Weimer's house because he's got a big TV and it's color. So I break every speed limit possible,
oh my gosh,
pull into Weimer's house just as things going on. But of course, it was broadcast in black and white. So the fact that he had a color TV.
didn't even. I was just gonna say, wasn't it black and white? It's the moon. There's
so
no color.
I risked losing my license to watch it black
To
and
watch
white.
it black and white, regardless. Oh my gosh, I love these stories.
Oh, we could go on for
Yeah,
hours.
we
Oh,
could.
I'm
and
sure. I
hours.
was gonna say. I feel like we.
I'm sure your audience
As
has
they
already
come to
turned
you.
us off.
Well, no, you kind of answered a question I had, so I'll move past that. But I think something that's a big question on my mind, like looking ahead, what do you hope for the future of Butler Little Theatre?
I hope that it continues to thrive and grow. I think that recently we've gotten more people trying out, coming for tryouts, and more interest. And I hope that we are continuing to be an institution in Butler for a long, long time. I've jokingly said that when I die, I want to be cremated and my ashes spread backstage because we don't clean very well backstage. I'll be here forever. And that's my legacy.
Okay. Sue, what do you?
Well, I'm the same. I hope that it continues for another 80 years plus, and that, that everyone continues to feel that it is a family. I've always, in all the years I've been here, because of how I was treated when I first started, I try to welcome new people, make them feel comfortable, make them feel part of the group. Because if you don't, they're not going to come back. And, I think it amazes me how many people that I have run into over my lifetime that Butler Little Theater, BLT, I don't know, is that bacon, lettuce, and tomato? What are you talking about? I didn't know there was a theater in Butler. How could you not know when it's 84 years old?
Yes.
But it happens all the time, and so anyway, I hope it continues forever.
I don't. No, I do.
He just has to be funny.
I just
He
We
does.
love you.
So last year, Pittsburgh Magazine named the Butler Little Theater the best of the Burg. And in that designation, essentially what they were saying was the Little Theater in Butler was the best community theater in the, hinterland going around the
I think
city of
tri-state.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of venue we want to be. That's the kind of venue we think we have been. That doesn't mean we haven't done a clunker show over the years. In fact, I could regale you with one I was in that sucked like an Electrolux. But but by and large, the shows we do here, the scripts are great, the actors are good, the set designs are usually imaginative. It's and there's really nothing quite like live theater. People can and should enjoy all the movies they want, but Butler is very lucky. Live performing art exists and thrives in Butler here at the Little Theater, at the Musical Theater Guild, and with our symphony, which is terrific.
And Hobnob.
Hobnob Theater. So, I mean, for a town of, counting the township, there's probably not more than 27,000 people. It's pretty remarkable what we have here. And if you come to the Little Theater and see a show, I think most people are pretty impressed by what we do. We're proud of it.
And what's really wonderful is you can, and I've started doing this. I know, Nedra and Dennis, you have your seats that you typically go to closing night of every show. You buy your season tickets. So I bought the seat across the aisle from you. I was like, well, this is a perfect spot to sit. And I did the same thing closing night. So for anyone who's interested, there's different purchase options that you can get for shows, but I think purchasing a ticket, a season ticket holder, buying a seat for every single show is just so important because it almost gets you into a habit. It's something to look forward to. And then you get to see the variety, not only of like the acting, the directing, the set design, but just getting to know other audience members. I think that's an important part of this too. So many people come here, a lot of the same people always come to the Sunday show, right? We always know Sunday matinees are probably going to be one of our first ones to kind of fill up because there are those people who are dedicated to that. But it's keeping something alive that for me personally has been very therapeutic, being able to be a part of this theater. And something I had forgot about until I moved back. And the first show I did when I came back was Lifespan of a Fact. And I forgot we were doing our read through, which typically you go up to the green room, you read through your script, you'll start rehearsals. And as I was walking up onto the stage and went back there, I walked past that door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your dad's name is on it.
Yeah.
Who we miss.
And something that's been on my mind for a long time that I wanted to ask all of you was, you all were probably here when the decision was made to dedicate that door to him and to put that plaque on there. And I don't know, like to me, that's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a huge deal for his name to be on that door. And it's just, it means a lot to me because I think it was after that show, we were at the after party at Phil's house and someone who didn't know me was like, well, who are you again? And Phil Ball was like, okay. He's like, well, she's kind of a legend. And I was like, my dad's name. And I always do that. I'm always like, my dad's name is on the stage door. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like, I feel like those are already big shoes to fill. And looking back, I remember being a kid and sitting up there. And this was back in the day when we would pull the curtain closed and that red light would come on and I would watch over to the light booth and I'd sit up there on a couch and I'd do my homework, but I'd sometimes sit and I'd look over the railing and watch people act and just how special that was to me. But thinking back and wishing that I had come in here with him and done some of the construction. And I feel like there were times I remember being in here when he was doing stuff. I do remember being here. But just how important those people are as well, and right. How, for me, like for Star Spangled Girl, I think because of that legacy, I also wanted to be here on the set design days. I wanted to be here on the days that we were building the set. Like we all were a part of that. Mm-hmm. Everybody came here and built. We all put the carpet down on the platform together. Like we were painting. I taped off all of those stripes for the stripe wall. I started painting them. Sam and I painted them together. Like those things are important. So for anyone who's looking to get involved, and I know the people sitting here with me would say this to you, just come in, introduce yourself, and get involved. You could help with props. You could help with costumes. You could sit in the light booth and help. You could be a stage manager.
You could usher.
You can usher.
Work in the box office.
You can work in the box office. You can greet people as they come in. You can be a house person and greet people as they come in the door to the show. Just come here and introduce yourself because it really is a special place. And for me, coming back, when I was ready to come in here and audition for a show, like when I knew, I was like, okay, I'm ready to fully start getting immersed into the theater. And I've even told other people, I'm like, if you are directing a show or you're producing a show and you need help, just text me. Do you need help with props? Like, what do you need help with? Like, just ask, because I do want to be that person. I don't see myself as just the person that's on stage or just directing. I was really honored to direct, especially to direct Star Spangled Girl. I felt like, and you both did that show in college. We talked a lot about that. Nedra was a huge component of that show. She, shared a lot of her experience with that show. And I think that it's just such a special place for me. And I don't know, thinking about my dad, we talked about my dad last week at the party, and even my mom and my grandmother. I mean, there's photos of my mom upstairs in shows, and my grandmother would help with costumes. So for me, it is special to know that my family's been a part of this building. But I've kind of said what I would say to someone considering coming in. You could probably all agree. Just come in and introduce yourself. Everyone here is very welcoming.
Or you can contact us through our website.
Right.
Get your name to somebody, and we'll
Reach out
find
to
a
you.
spot for you.
And I don't think that Dennis and Nedra or I don't think any of the three of us are leaving.
Oh, no.
We're not leaving.
Yeah,
we're
no,
just
you're
no
just-
longer on the board.
You're just not on
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They
And
did promise me that I would get my own plaque. It's going to be on the roll-off dumpster out back. But,
Dennis.
but that's almost as good as your dad. I mean,
Oh,
No,
Dennis,
I think we
Dennis.
can do better, Dennis. We'll do better. You are someone for sure who I think if someone is wanting to thank you or thinking of you, like all three of you deserve the utmost respect in that. So yeah, there are plenty of things in this building that I'm sure at some point will get replaced, and it'll be like, hey, you know what we should do? We should get another plaque in this building.
Or just my ashes.
Well, and then Nedra's ashes. Actually, you know what we should do with your ashes? We should put it in a really beautiful urn.
Yeah.
And it should just kind of like be,
Oh, no.
yeah, but
fly down center
Listen,
stage.
What would Nedra do? Well, she's watching us right now, so we should probably make the right
I
decision.
thought that was supposed to be a chandelier.
They're like, look at that new light fixture they put in the theater. And we're like, that's Nedra. And they're like, who? And I'm like, Nedra Casey, that's her. There are so many nooks and crannies in this building. There's an amazing third floor and attic that is probably hotter than all
Yeah,
who
you
knows
don't
what
wanna
right
even-
now.
yeah, no.
Pretty sure I'm not going to go up there today. I might have to plan it for another day.
So you mentioned the third floor. That reminds me of one of my favorite stories, which involves Gary Collar.
Yes.
So it used to be that the light booth was up on the third floor. Mm-hmm. No glass, no nothing.
Just a rail.
Certainly no air conditioning.
And a couch.
And a couch. And so Gary and I are running lights for a play called Love. Well, that particular play, the lights came on at the beginning and went off at the end. So it was incredibly boring. And we're
And
talking
the two of them together.
Yeah, and we're talking perhaps a bit too loud. Perhaps.
Oh, okay.
In those days, the stage manager's station was on stage right upstairs by the pole. Our great friend Sally Bowser was stage manager. And launched from a cannon comes Ron Lockwood, who's the director of that particular play. And he toggles the little light that's supposed to signal the light booth, to pick up. Gary sees all this, of course.
No.
Gary picks up the headphones and says, "Light booth, may I help you?" I thought Ron Lockwood was going to stroke out.
He's like, shut up. Stop talking. Oh, yeah. Well, it's good to know that, when I look at all three of you, I think you've got it together. You're professional, but it's good to know that you at least were younger and a little wilder.
Oh, like I said, the stories could go on
Yeah,
and on.
really,
Go
seriously.
on and on and on.
Yeah.
So can I take a minute to do a commercial for the Little Theater? I just want to talk very briefly about our 5 upcoming shows for this year and give a very brief description of them because I'm hoping to entice people to come buy tickets, buy season tickets, come see the shows. So the first show is a play called Vino Veritas. It's a play that takes place on Halloween Eve. There's 2 couples who are dressed in their Halloween costumes when the play opens. And they one couple had been recently on a trip to Peru, and they came back with this special wine they got from a shaman in Peru. And when you drink this wine, that's the vino, the wine forces you to tell nothing but the truth, Vino Veritas. And so the play is hilarious because how many of us, when we're talking, mask the truth? So that play is interesting. The second play of the season, I can't tell you the title because it's too long and I'm old and I forget, but it's essentially a Christmas family comedy that harkens to Hallmark Christmas movies. It tries to capture some of that here on the Little Theater stage. I think for families and people who enjoy Christmas, that's a cool show. Our third show is a play called Love Letters. We did that once before here, probably 20 years ago, quite a while ago. And it's a beautiful play. It's 2 people, man and wife, who through their letters talk about from their childhood to their old age about their lives and loves together. The fourth show is a play called Downstairs, and it's a mystery, suspense, interesting family dynamic type play. There's only 3 characters, but what you think happens, what is happening on stage, is not what's happening on stage, and it goes from there. And the last play is Hay Fever, which is a classic Noel Coward comedy, a British comedy of manners, I would call it. It's not a farce, but it's very funny. We've done that play here before, again, 25, 30 years ago.
A long time, yeah.
And
So, Dennis, are you applying to direct any of those shows?
I have applied to direct 2 of those shows.
And you don't have to say which ones.
Oh, I can say I'm interested in Vino Veritas, and I'm also interested in Downstairs. The board of directors will make their decision sometime in the next 5-6 weeks, and we'll find out from there.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
All good things.
All good things.
We also have in the spring, well, it's not quite spring when we have the play reading night. That's always a really fun event. And it basically features from the shows that we're doing and then ones that are being considered for the future. So people can kind of give their perspective, or sometimes we do a vote. I don't remember if we did that, or like
They can note their opinion.
they can note your opinion, like, oh, well, I preferred this one. We usually like number them. So that's always a fun experience too, to kind of know, especially when you're involved with the theater, and if you're not on the board, it's nice to kind of know all of that. And you have a play reading committee as well. So they're sort of in charge of getting together and deciding the plays. And so there's a lot of involvement. There's a lot of moving parts
There's
here.
a lot of committees that you can get involved with. And you don't have to be on the board to be involved with a particular committee.
How has being involved with the Butler Little Theater shaped like your personal life or even friendships over the years, over the decades?
I think I've gained a lot of friends through BLT. I know that when you do a show, particularly, you always become close with your cast members in that show. But it's not something that is negated by the end of the show. You still continue your friendships with people. Lots of them develop into much deeper friendships. And all of us support each other in our good times here at the theater, in our good times in our lives, in our bad times in our lives. So we are truly a family, and it really, really is amazing to be part of it.
Yes, I agree with everything that Nedra said. I mean, I've different jobs and met a lot of people, very few of which I'm still in contact with. But just about everybody that I've met over the years at the theater, I can call a friend. Some closer than others, but definitely a friend.
Well, I'm something of an acquired taste. So I don't have...
I mean, if he doesn't leave us with laughter, what?
Right, exactly.
What are we doing?
So it's true I have a lot of friends, and I treat them all with equal disdain.
Yes.
So it's...
Except Sue.
except Sue. So we've had a lifetime of experiences here. That's the best way to put it.
Okay. Is there anything else? I'm sure there's a million more things. We could probably have multiple episodes. You could have a Butler Eagle podcast. I mean, I know someone that could help you with that.
Oh, really? Someone like sitting here?
Yeah, someone sitting here.
No, I just want to say on behalf of BLT, it's been a pleasure to have been a part of it, and I hope it continues forever. And thank you very much for doing this for BLT. Thank you,
Thank you, Laura.
You did a great job.
You're
Thanks.
welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you guys really led it, so the stories are great. So thank you. Thank you so much to Sue Collar, Dennis Casey, and Nedra Casey for sharing their time, stories, and deep love for the Butler Little Theatre. It's clear that BLT isn't just a place. It's a family, a legacy, and a vital part of this community's cultural heartbeat. And we're not done yet. Be sure to join me next week as we continue celebrating BLT's incredible legacy with none other than Bonnie Cahill, a name synonymous with talent, dedication, and decades of unforgettable theater. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Eagle. Join me every Monday for a new episode, and be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Alter Eagle Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.